Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
Intane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. Once again, it's just me today. Tane is away doing something pretty exciting. And as always, I want to share something that I learned over the last week or so. It is a concept called the Circle of Humanness by Michael Grinder. And he talks about how we all have different layers and different circles that we live our lives with. And how when we see somebody, we look at those things and they could look at things like style, appearance, values, belief, identity, whatever the circle is. And a lot of the times we have a miscommunication because we connect with people from different circles. So for example, you might be someone that's looking at identity and the other person might be someone that looks at appearance, and that's where there's a clash, which is really, really interesting philosophy and really interesting thought about it. So my invitation for you out there listening is have a look, Google Michael Grinder Circles of Humanness and see what that brings up for you. The reason I bring that up today is because I'm really, 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 really excited to introduce my guest today. This is someone that I'm really inspired by, and they're a friend of mine, but they're someone that came into my life a few years ago, and I've seen how they have navigated the world just professionally, personally, and also just globally. It's someone that I've wanted to get on the podcast for a while, and as you know, life throws things, and things happen for a reason. This person is not just an amazing human, they're not just the most kind-hearted person in the world, but they're also someone that is making changes because they're also a fellow podcaster. And the cool thing is, before I introduce them onto this podcast, is they have just celebrated their 100th podcast episode, which we'll talk about in a bit. But it's my absolute pleasure, my absolute honor, and absolute privilege to welcome to Baskets of Knowledge, Maryum Sharif. Kia ora, Maryum, welcome to Baskets of Knowledge.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brajesh. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Maryum. I'm doing really great. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. And Maryum, I know all about you, or a little about you, but our guests know nothing about you. Who is Maryum today on the 1st of April, 2026?
Oh, wow, you're 1st of April. We're still in March at the moment.
Yeah, time zones, eh? Yeah.
Absolutely. A late interview, probably one of the latest that I've done. So right now, I've just, like you said, just celebrated my 100th episode of my podcast, and I started actually 7 years ago with the thought of someone suggesting that I should do something different, and you know something in your heart says that you need to explore something. And I heard Gary Vee saying that podcasting is the latest trend, and I'm such a learner, and as you're an ex-teacher, so I always want to be learning and growing, and I just embarked on this journey, and it was incredible. I'm actually quite overwhelmed with the response and just the love that I've had, and 100 moguls, and you are one of them, actually.
Yeah, and that's really beautiful, and that's I love that because that's one part of your life. But if we step away from that as well, Maryum, you do so many other cool things in your world.
Yes.
Yeah. What else? What else? So for our listeners who want to know more about you. Yeah. What else? Tell us what else you do. Yeah.
So I think creativity is the heart of everything that I do. Yes, I did step into style, but my background is IT and management. I have a degree in IT and management. I worked in education and helping young people. And I love mentoring and coaching young people. And so I really help the disadvantaged young people. And my projects were with County Council, local Race Equality Council, which is the bodies which help the BME communities, the Black and minority ethnic groups. And my job was to create inclusion projects. And I actually loved this area of work that I used to do. And so it was my job to get these young people who were expelled or maybe suicidal or maybe into drugs, domestic abuse. And it was for me to find inspiration and give them either training, for them to go into training or education or work experience. So these 3 avenues. And to motivate these young people and find their passion. And I find that I do exactly the same thing now with adults. So it hasn't changed. but to trying to find something that they would want to do and that would make them jump out of bed. So
Yeah.
yeah, I followed that. And then I was working in the prison service. I worked just because I loved Shawshank Redemption, and someone said to me, "Got headhunted with because you work with the local the young people, and you work with probation, so many different fields." And someone said, "Oh, how about there's an opening at the prison service?" And I was like, "I just want to see what the prison's like." And so I went in for one. I was there for half the day, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is so interesting." And then they offered me the job, and I was like, "Well, I'll do it for a month." I was there for nearly about a year and a half, and then my father passed away. But it was probably one of my best jobs. I only worked part-time, but it was just probably, I mean, I'm still a teacher, so, but everybody's like, how could you work at the prison service? How could you? And I'm a daring person. I can't do the same as everything. I always want to challenge myself. So I did that. And a lot of people said, well, you work in the prison service? And I was like, yeah, because I didn't move away for work. My parents weren't well. My father was very unwell at that time, so I made a choice that I would stay and look after them. And I worked in education, so whatever I did, it was just had to be interesting enough for me to do. And I've always done something different. I've never done the same as everyone else. I've always wanted to challenge myself and do something different. I've got one life. I want to do everything, So
Yeah.
but I've changed chapters a lot, and I've changed, and every decade I kind of change my career because I feel like one should evolve and grow. And then I went into fashion. And I thought, when my father passed away, I thought, I don't want to regret anything. So I studied at London College of Fashion. I studied makeup. I'm a pro makeup artist and an image and brand consultant. And I did that for like nearly 15 years. Yeah. I set up my image consultancy, the first for the Asian community here in London, and it was just amazing. I met in a few years, I was London Fashion Week. I designed divas and diplomats and corporates and celebrities. It was wonderful, and I was known as someone who would design people for red carpet and award ceremonies, and it was lovely. So it was really nice. And then, went to Dubai. And then after when I got back, and I was like, okay, what do I do? I was a lady of leisure there. And I met some lovely people. And traveling, and I think going out of your comfort zone to different countries also makes you grow, and you learn about
Yeah.
different cultures, different language. And I went with my English glasses, and when I was there, I was like, it completely changed my perception about the women out there, because I really thought that they were suppressed. And I'm quite ashamed saying this, but being Muslim myself, I was like, how do they live? And you have that stereotype, don't you? And then I started my podcast in Dubai because I wanted to change the perception of women in the Middle East. And I featured all these amazing women, innovators, designers, creatives, founders. It was a beautiful, beautiful start to changing my own perception. But I thought, if I think like that, then how many other people would think the same way? And I have met such beautiful people, and you could probably understand when you were doing podcasting, it's such a beautiful experience. But I think the most beautiful thing is the person that you become along the way. And just so self-aware, and you learn so much because every conversation is so life-changing. You kind of you learn something from that guest of yours, and it changes your perspective. You learn something, you have extra knowledge, and you just become just a much more conscious and self-aware human. I would say that's what's amplified me through podcasting.
Yeah,
I don't know what
no.
you think.
I,
How have
I,
you
I
changed?
I relate that totally. Every single conversation
Yeah,
I learn so much. As you say, we come into the world, we have one life, but our one life is based on the lenses we wear. And when we
yeah,
flip and change the lenses, like this conversation or the other hundreds of conversations we have, our lens changes slightly. And it reminds me about a podcast I had yesterday about an experiment that was done with two kittens. It's a very famous experiment. These kittens were born, and one set were put into a box with only horizontal lines, and one set were put into a box with only vertical lines, and they were just raised in there for a long time. And then when they were put out, the cats that were raised in the with the horizontal lines couldn't look at things that were vertical; they didn't recognize them, and things from the vertical lines couldn't recognize things from the horizontal, even though they were there. So that got me thinking about how many things do we, as our world, defined by our beliefs and our structure. A bit like what you just said.
Yeah.
You have
Our
this belief
environment.
structure. It's so
Yeah.
crazy. So I love the
Yeah.
way you have said it.
Our environment shapes our thinking so much. And I had this realization with the women and my guests at the event. I'll use that as an example because it's so recent. And I thought about the amazing women that were there, and they all said it was like we were just meeting friends because I really had handpicked my guests, and the energy and the love and the kindness, and just that rapport and that friendship that everybody had in the room, and the energy was so amazing that everybody thought they had ever met everybody before. And do you know that half the people that I invited, I had beautiful relationships on social media, because obviously I've come back. There was COVID when I came back in 2020, and then I didn't really go much out because of my mother, and then it wasn't really like I was before, pre-COVID. And I had and a lot of people said, well, how did you meet Maryum? And well, it's the first time we met her, and there were, there's a good 10 guests that I hadn't met before, but it wasn't like I met them last week and I invited them. I had known them for years, like, good
Yeah,
4 or 5 years. But they have become incredibly dear to me and such. So we've built this beautiful relationship. So those people who say, social media, we don't like it. But if you have the right positive mindset, you can actually find beautiful relationships. And there's good in everything. If you put on your glasses and find good in everything, because whenever I see somebody when I'm styling, I'm like, do a scan, and I'm like, yeah, this is great. And I'm like, no, it's not. But I was like, I've got 4 eyes because I see better than you. So I always say that, I was like, I've trained my eyes to see the good in everybody. And I
yeah,
think that being a stylist or looking at those, people look at imperfections. I look at the fabulousness. They look at flaws. And so I
yeah.
think that that's what happens. People are um, so critical of themselves, but they don't, if they just turn that around and start becoming more loving to themselves, if you're full of love, then you'll see the world in those eyes.
That is so true. That is so true. Miriam, I want to go back just a little bit because I want to pick up something that you said just before. And you picked up and you said something that was really profound for me, that you went to buy because you thought the women were oppressed, and, the perception that we have about the Middle East.
The perception
But
that you have, yes.
perception. But I want to think about your story because you're a Southeast Asian woman and you're doing something that is so radically different. What was it like for you navigating your community as you started doing things that were sometimes not seen to be the norm for someone that fits your mold?
Well, in the UK, and especially in my generation, like say, a little bit older than, and my parents are first generation immigrants, and so my father came with his pre-partition, and so you still have that kind of mindset of hardworking. Uh, but thankfully, my father was a businessman and very successful one, and my mother's side was all doctors and architects, and mainly doctors. If about 80% of my family, but the thing is that I studied IT and management, but I wanted to study makeup or creative, and inside I was this creative person that's wanted to come out, and for me it was expression. I think I
Yeah,
was quite quiet when I was young. There was a period in time when I was, and then I think because I actually had some other glasses. Now glasses are, my identity, but I don't know, curly hair. And I didn't fit the mold of that, the just the South Asian girl. I was like my whole image was so different. And I think that I've always done something different. I've never followed the mold. There's certain people that just follow and just do what everyone says. And I've never been like that. There's something inside you that makes you want to do something different. So when I did want to start and do makeup, I didn't see any role models. I didn't see
yeah,
anybody who did makeup in mainstream. It was one girl and that was about it. And I was like, oh. And so you didn't see anybody, any brown faces. You didn't see anybody from the community. So I think our generation, second generation of immigrants, born immigrants, they're very different mindset. But we were, trying to mix in, but trying to stay, close to our identity and culture, our language. But that's the best thing was that when I became to a certain status where I kind of understood my community, I gained a lot of knowledge and recognition in my field. That's when I started my charity called Mad Mentors, and that was media art and design. So that mentoring, I've always given back to young people because I feel that, if you have knowledge, if you start young and start kind of educating their minds, I feel that they're just better equipped. If you have these conversations quicker and younger, then it affects your trajectory of your career, and you have that better understanding. I always say that you should have friends 10 years younger and 10 years older because you learn so much. So, the elders have gone through life and, uh, things like women are going through menopause and all their health issues. And then you have the younger friends that are, they're up with the trends or the culture and pop and so the music and it's just a nice combination. So I've always done that, always helped young people, but I had elder friends as well, or mentors or trainers. And it's a great way to look at life and always have, because if you're just stuck with your same age group, it's quite boring conversations, right?
100%.
Same old. So I think my father was, would ha always had these really profound conversations around dinner with his friends, and I'd always listen. But I've always been someone who likes different cultures and any creed and combination. I love different. I'm not someone who likes the same because I think the growth comes from learning from different cultures, learning from traveling, for example. I'm a big traveler, I used to be, and I just think there's so much knowledge to gain from being there in the country and indulging yourself in food and culture and clothes.
Yeah, no, totally. What I loved about that, Miriam, was how you spoke about embracing the difference. A lot of the times, if we live in a world where society or all the rules or the beliefs, we go back to beliefs where people think that if you are different, it's not a good thing. But you're a clear example that actually there's not difference is only what other people say, but you knew in your
Yeah.
heart that what you were doing is for yourself. And the concept that you've just mentioned, we had a podcast guest last week, and he mentioned something profound, which is related to what you were saying, is intergenerational leadership, was what he called it. And what about intergenerational friendships? Is exactly what you
Yeah.
said. It's really profound because we stick with the same people, and when we stick with the same people, you just have the
Yes.
same
Yes.
stories. But as you said, the older people teach you wisdom and mistakes not to make. The younger people keep you young and keep you on trend with what's hot on TikTok and all those cool
Yeah.
things that you go. Actually, this is
Yeah,
really cool.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I also find not only just age groups, but creatives and
yeah.
corporates,
Yes.
because I used to go to a lot of, corporate events. I styled at all the big main corporate events. So when you have creatives and corporates, I think that beautiful collaborations happen. And I think that people just, the corporate stick to that because my friends are corporate. I'm creative. They don't even know what I do. And just at the event, they're like, oh my God, you're really in your element. You love what you I'm so proud of you. So I guess sometimes they don't know what you do. You just have to show them. You
Yeah.
have to introduce the concepts to them and to open their mind as well. Because
Yeah.
the corporates think one thing, creatives think another, but until you actually introduce both concepts and then, it's, beautiful. Yeah, I find even I'm going to reference with the girls, she said to me, um, I don't have any Muslim friends, and you're the only one that I know. And my father always told me, you be the role model, be the example, be someone that when someone asks about, your culture or your religion or that they have a real great impression that you're a good human being. He used to say humanity first, so lead with your heart, be a good person, kind, and it's not about anything else. That's it, humanity first. And I think if we all applied those principles, the world would be a very different place.
Yeah, and I love that. And what wise words from your father, but also, our parents always tell us things, but whether we
Yes.
listen is very different, right? So it's pretty awesome that you have listened and you've taken
Yeah.
that to
I
to
had a
heart.
really, I had a really open-minded, future-forward father. My father never said to me, like I was studying, I wanted to do law. I have lawyers in my family, and I wanted to do IT. And I was like, well, what should I do? I was like, I can't decide. I like both, but and he said, look, do IT because it's the future. And I feel like I've done a whole circle now because all of my conversations are about AI or creativity, and it's so interesting how we think we learn something, we might not use it, but somehow it all ties in together. And anything that you learn, anything that you train in will never be a waste because you always use it somewhere. You'll always kind of you have the potential to kind of you never know at that point in time, but you will use that skill somewhere.
100%. And one of the philosophies that I
Yeah.
have, and I think we're the same here, is always be a student, always be a learner, because you just never know.
Yeah.
You just never know. If you learn for the sake of something, you're learning for the wrong reason. But if you're learning just for the sake of learning,
Yeah.
you
Well,
enjoy
and
it so
also
much
that if
more.
you think that you know it all, then that's
Yeah,
it. Like
yeah,
that's the point of that's the dangerous point. If you think you know it all, no one knows it all. We're always
yeah,
learning, we're always growing, we're always evolving. And even when some people say to me, "Oh, Maryum, I'm just kind of I've lost myself. I need to find myself." And I was, what is this lost and found? You're founded the day you were born and you're just evolving, right? What is this?
yeah,
Because the more you say that you're lost, you will feel lost. I need to find myself. I was like, because you hear it when you're coaching, I hear it with a lot of my friends that have conversations. I ask, look, what is this? Change your language. That's the first thing. You're not lost. You're
yeah,
just evolved. You're just going through a chapter change. And I feel that every 10 years, I think every decade I kind of change because I don't want to be the same person. I don't want to be doing one thing. I don't want to be boxed.
yeah, totally.
Life's too short. You want to explore your own skills. I think I want to explore who I am. I
Yeah,
want I want to I want to explore what else can I do? What else can I do? So I
yeah.
think you always challenge yourself.
Yeah, and when I introduced you, I said I'm really inspired by you. You don't know this yet, but I'm really inspired by you and all the things that you do. And I take inspiration from the fact, you've got to 100 episodes. But I want to ask you a question. You speak about it really passionately. Life is full of challenges. I'd love to know some of the
Mm.
challenges that you faced as you think about your pathway to 100 episodes, not just the podcasting, but Miriam's life. And I talk about this because we see the finished product, but we don't see the challenges that people go through. I'd love to share some of those challenges with our audience if you feel comfortable.
Oh, well, I think there's so many. Every chapter has so many challenges, but I think the beautiful thing is that those challenges actually are instigators of change. I feel that every time you have a challenge, it's kind of it's leveling you up to do something else. It's building that character, it's character building for me. So that's the first thing. So every time if you do have a challenge, I have a difficulty, I always change that into excitement. I'm never fearful because I've been trained now. And I trained with Tony Robbins, and at a very young age, I did style and self-development together. And I feel that that's a great way to change your mindset. If you feel that every time you're fearful or you're challenged, it's a time of growth. It's an exciting change. So yes, of course, I think probably the one of the hardest is losing my father at a young age, and then I was like, oh, he was my rock, and I was like, what do I do now? And he's always been so future forward, and I think taught me such great principles of life um, that I would never want to regret anything. I think that's the worst thing that you can do. So I think I always have that in my heart that I will never regret anything. If I look at something and I think, okay, will I regret not doing this? And then that's the question I ask myself because it's very important as podcasters, we ask questions, but the most important conversation that we have is the conversation with ourselves. Get that conversation correct first, then all the other conversations will go well. So I think that's what I always feel in everything that I do. Will I regret this? will it affect me in my future? How will it help others? Will it create impact? And because my heart was always wanting to give back, is always to help. And so that was a big challenge for me of like, okay, losing my father and then not knowing what to do. And then I just actually trained with mentors. I gained mentors. I would look for someone who'd help me in my journey. I didn't have a father, don't have uncles or brother. And usually in our society and culture, we taught to do that. And sometimes you do need that extra big brother help. And so my mentors became my elder brothers. I learned from them. And from Tony Robbins to Brian Rose, podcasting, even John Lee.
Mm.
And so that was a big challenge for me because you need that guidance and you need someone to give that direction. And if you can't find it, you should ask others for help. And there's no shame in asking people. You should always ask for help. And I think in our culture, in our society, we don't. It's hard for us to ask for help. And so I think that's a really important thing that you must ask people for help, and you just don't know what somebody's going through. So you should be aware as well about your surroundings, but also I think that every chapter has challenges. When I came to London and I wanted to study, makeup artistry, there was nobody that was doing it mainstream. You didn't see anybody on the TV or films. You didn't see, black, brown faces in makeup artistry or creativity, not as much anyway, and not in creative industries because we weren't that wasn't the yes, you had to do the degree, graduate, and then do something else. But my father always said, do whatever makes you happy. Do whatever you feel like within boundaries and,
Mhm, mhm.
self-respect. But besides that, if you want to do something, go for it. He never treated us, me and my sister, like daughters. He said, these are my sons. So the same respect, the same opportunities. So I was really lucky to have a father that was very open-minded. My mother was slightly more conservative, but my father was very open-minded. And I feel that that has allowed me to channel so many of my own personality. I wasn't boxed. I wasn't told I had to do this or I had to do that. I think that allowed me to express myself. So I've always had that self-confidence. And I always say that my father believed in me so much that I was forced to believe in myself. So sometimes when I think about it, so he came from India pre-partition, on a boat from Venice, served in the Second World War, had businesses, made a name for himself, a self-made person. So, and I think that when I think of those things, my father never ever thought that, is there a challenge? Is there a worry? He'd always say, "Don't worry." That's his favorite words, Prajesh. He's like, "Don't worry." And I was like, how can I not worry? And so now I think about it now and now at this age, I lived in my fifth decade. So I'm like, oh yeah, don't worry. And now I realize there's nothing to worry about because everything will happen the way it's meant to be. I'm much more of a spiritual person. I'm much more, I'm really grounded and just understand that life happens for you and it doesn't happen to you. So as much as we have challenges every day, if I'm
Yeah,
actually honest. We
yeah,
are we challenge, and if you're in a business owner, you have a challenge every single day. But we have challenges every single day, so you're not going to get away from them, big or small. And I think it's just your positive mental attitude. I think that's what I have to get over anything. I think about it and I'm like, take a deep breath, and I was like, okay, is this a priority? Do I need to handle it now? And otherwise, I'll do my work and then get back to it. And I always had this advice from a teacher of mine. Okay, you have 5 minutes to worry about something, cry it out, and then get back. Because the more you dwell on it, the more you think about it, that, like it doesn't help. Well, there's no point of crying. And no point of worrying. Ladies will get gray hair. Don't worry about anything. No heartbreak. No, nothing that gives you unrest. No anxiety. So, I've kind of learned, and I think you learn these things along the way. You don't understand them when you're going through them, but once you've gone through them and come out the other end and you're back on track again, which you will be, we'll fall, but it's getting yourself back up again and being around the right people. I would say environment is such a big one for me. Every time I'm in the right environments, I feel that I can do anything because my friends won't allow me to be anyone less. I think one of the biggest challenges I had, if I am honest, that when I came back from Dubai after my divorce, and my friend said to me, only if you could see me through my eyes. Like you are
Mm,
so special. You're not seeing the person that I see through
yeah.
my eyes. And so I have friends, even if I don't talk negative, but if I at one point did, they're like, don't say that. And they'll literally,
Call
shout
you
at
out.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, call you out. Like age is not a number with any of us.
Yeah.
I remember saying to my friend, "Oh, something's wrong with my knee, and oh, it must be the age." And I was like, she goes, "What? You can be old. I'm not old." And she literally shouted and screamed at me. So, I guess it's just we have these limiting beliefs, as we call it, right? Like we put limitations on ourselves. What is a limiting belief? We cap our own self. We are limiting our own self. It's just a mindset game. One of the biggest shifts that I've ever had when we do coaching is it's all in the mind.
Mm.
Everything starts from the mindset. So I actually call it brain styling, that you're styling your
Oh, I
brain.
love that.
You-
I love that.
Yeah. So I always say that we style everything else, but in the last probably 5 years, I think we're always brain styling. We've got to style our brain as much. And that's probably one of the most important because once you've got the mindset right, then everything else goes. When the mind is, the body flows. So yeah.
Yeah, and what I really enjoy about that, Miriam, is just we have challenges every single day. This is part of our life, and I always ask this question to all my guests about challenges, because the answers are really interesting. And the
Mm.
answer you gave is we have challenges all the time. It's about the mindset. But what I love the word brain styling. Might have to steal that there. Oh, you
Yeah.
better pay. Oh, you better patent it. But also,
Yeah.
one of my favorite sayings that I use all the time is your vibe attracts your tribe, but your tribe
Yeah.
also attracts your vibe. And as you said, the people around you
Absolutely.
affect
Absolutely.
your energy, and you attract that energy.
Yeah, I'm someone who believes in energy completely. If you met me, I mean, I'm quite calm now, but like I am always high energy. I mean, when I was at boarding school, had high energy. When I was at working for student union, total high energy. That I got named Mad Max because of that movie, and I was always running around during like the break or the lunchtime, and I was like, I gotta fix this. I'm doing this, and I went into events. And so everybody's like, "Who's that girl? She's sort of running around in the breaks and stuff." And they're like, "Oh, she's like Mad Max." And so even though my name is Mariam and there's no relationship there, I just got named Max. And even my nieces, my cousins, and my uncles, they're like Max Auntie. So like sometimes like I even have to think of my own name when somebody calls me Mariam, because they call me Max as my nickname. So all of my friends and all of my family know me as Max, Max Auntie or Max Khala. So yeah, but I do believe that yeah,
Uh,
exactly. So
um, um,
energy is everything for me. I
yeah.
feel like I feel the energy of someone. I feel the energy in the room. We had it in our event. But when I meet somebody, I feel somebody's energy, and I think energy introduces itself first. So people
Mhm.
say, "Oh, it's your personality or it's your clothing," and no, it's your energy that introduces you. All I knew that event that we had, the 100th episode, we had great energy. Everybody had the right frequency. We're all high vibration souls, and that's what makes a beautiful event, any beautiful occasion.
Yeah, and that's so true. I
Yeah.
love how you said that, because when I was training a long time ago, and I remember one of my mentors said to me, "It doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter about anything, but when you walk into a room, in those
Yeah.
first 3 seconds, people are going to judge you based on the energy that you bring in." And I've
Yeah.
never, when they told me, I was like, "Yeah, what are you talking about?" And then, as you know, in education, you only have a split second, those 5 seconds to make a connection. And now, when you speak about it and I think back, it's all about the energy, the frequency that you could have when you are low energy. people in the room are going to pick that up straight away before you even say
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
And you can't
Yeah.
pretend, right? You can't pretend. So it's really beautiful that you bring that through. But
Yeah,
what
we're
I
like radio stations and we have our own
100%.
station and we just, are you tuning into the same station? I think
Yeah,
that if we look at ourselves as like, like a media company, like literally a powerhouse and you're just tuning in. So people on that, who are they tuning into? And people that are high vibration can't tolerate and can't um, be around low vibration. I can't, I mean, I'm so high vibe that I do repel if
yeah,
somebody is low. And it's not that I'm a low vibration, but I am calm. I have my calmness. I love my stillness because as much as uh, somebody who has energy and I love socializing and I love networking, it's one of my fortes, but I also like still. I like the opposites. I'm a contrast. I like busy, but I like my own space as well. I love sunshine, but I equally love snow. Like I love the contrast of life. I don't like anything in between. I think it should be all or nothing. So I'm a real like contrast person. So I feel that you equally have to have both. And I feel that if I'm high vibration, I definitely know that I um, will repel those
yeah,
people, which is a good thing,
yeah,
actually, because
yeah.
everybody has their own type of, your own tribe, but you don't have to like everybody. Not everybody
A
has to like you.
100%, 100%. And
That's
that's
what
so
we
true.
need to acknowledge. It's such an important point because we're so much seeking validation from people or wanting that approval. But if it's all about self-acceptance, especially when I do styling, and
Yeah,
the biggest hurdle is first to accept yourself,
yeah,
even for camera confidence, even for all the areas of work. It all starts from accepting and embracing who you are. The imperfections is beauty for me. I feel like people are so hung up about this perfect image that they have to create. Yes, I am in image and branding, but I always think that one should be authentically themselves. We are created unique. So, why do you want to be like anybody else? So it's really creating your own self, your own style.
yeah.
So I think people don't accept themselves. And I feel like there's so many conditions of way society says that we should be like this or we should be like that. And I always say to everybody, look, I've got big nose, big eyebrows, big hair, but I've got a big heart. So I was like big everything. But I was like, you got to embrace yourself. And if you don't love who you are and love what you do, then it will be so difficult for you to then step out into this world of branding or business when you don't love yourself. It'll be the most difficult thing. You have to love yourself offline before you start going online.
Yeah, and I love that. That's so powerful. And it's powerful because this a few years ago I went on this little quest, and the quest was I was just asking people to define perfection. Like we always
Mm.
talk about perfection, and nobody could. Well, everyone has a definition, but the definitions are
Yeah.
so different. Like your
Yeah,
definition, my
mine
definition,
is
it's so
imperfection is
different.
beauty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
imperfection is beauty to me. I never
yeah,
think that anybody should be perfect,
yeah,
imperfectly you. But yeah, for me, my definition has always been imperfection is beauty.
yeah. Because
I don't like
there's no such thing as perfect, right? There's actually no such thing as perfect. You know,
I don't like perfection. Yeah,
yeah, that's boring.
it's a bit boring.
It's
It's
very boring.
boring. Yeah.
It is very boring. It is very boring. Miriam, I want to ask you about your podcast. If you're thinking about your podcast, and I'd love to think about, you've had lots of guests. Is there a guest for you? I know all your guests are amazing, but I'm going to ask you to pick now. And it's always hard when you're a podcaster. I'd love you to pick a guest, not your best guest, but a guest that said yes to you, and you were like, wow, this is epic for me.
Um, I would, yeah, like everybody has their own unique story. And when I'm actually editing and I'm kind of play back everything, I fall in love with my guest even more. And I think I
Mm-hmm.
must have even said it to you, like I love because you're in the conversation and you don't realize, but when you actually play it back, and that's why I always say that, try to edit your own videos and try and,
Yes.
understand what
Yeah.
you were saying, because it's always good to see your own style and how to improve every single time when you're doing a podcast. However, um, Yeah, and I just fall in love with my guest even more. I'm just trying to think of someone that has been quite life-changing. Well, I'm going to say, I don't usually have many men on my podcast, but those do I rarely do that, have to have some kind of impact or have done something really, impeccable and outstanding. And I was training with a young guy on our social media training, and he'd gone through a he went through a fight, and he was in a coma, and the doctor said that uh, he would never walk. He would be brain damaged, and and actually when he wouldn't survive, he survived. He's traveled the world. He's written two books. He's a coach. He helps other people, live that life as well of abundance. And for me, for many years, we've studied together. I've known them through training, and I've seen him do his thing. And he asked me again, because we never, sometimes it's not that you don't want somebody on your podcast, but it's just the fact that of timing. Even ourselves, we were trying to
100%.
find the right timing. It was
Yeah.
Ramadan, I was fasting, and then I was in Dubai. So it's not that, but I just think that whenever it is the right time.
Yeah.
So when somebody does appear on your podcast, or when you have that conversation, that is the right time. There's no wrong time. And for me, when I had the conversation with him, it was so intrigued to find out his background, what he's done, and what he's learned. But the best thing that I loved about this young guy called Ryan is the person that he's become in these last few years, the self growth. For me, that is the most beautiful. And I just wanted to showcase to all the people that even if he had a fight, which is no fault of his, that he just got involved with something, and he literally was rushed to hospital in an air ambulance and went into coma, and then how he changed his life around. And some people could give up at that stage. But I wanted to showcase such a beautiful example of a person who's become even more compassionate, even more loving, even more kind, and now he's just giving back and pouring into other people. And I think that that's someone with a recent conversation that I've had, which went on for nearly 2.5 hours,
Wow.
because we were
Wow.
just talking. The podcast
Yeah.
isn't that long. I think it's about
Yeah.
an hour and a half. But we were just talking about everything. And I was just very proud, that of his self-growth. So that journey was beautiful, and it'd be wonderful to see what else he does in the next 5 or 10 years. But I can see the change of someone. And so he's taken something that was a difficulty, was a challenge, life changing. Literally, uh, the doctors had given up. And they said to even his parents when he was at the hospital that they should take off the life
Oh, wow.
support
Life
machine.
support.
And
Yeah.
the parents said no, because he's the fighter. He'll come out of this. And after a few weeks, he did. And so his life is just a testimony, or is a miracle. And I just thought that was a very, a telling story that we all want to give up at certain stages of our life. But, if we carry on and we continue, that somewhere, if you keep on doing it, keep on believing in yourself, having the right people around you, you will succeed. And our success is in our own definition. We don't have to be defined by certain types of success, but success in your own terms. And
Yeah.
I find that, I think he's prevailed, and that's what's nice. And that's a yeah, a story that I wanted to tell, because I just thought he was a remarkable young man.
And you know what I why I asked that question? I asked that question because we have a lot of people that come into our lives on our podcast, but there's always one person whose story just lands a little bit different. And I love how it's a full circle moment for you in terms of you were working in prisons, you're working with youth that were going through
Yeah,
trouble,
yeah,
and then all these years later you speak to somebody who had every single reason to give up
yes,
and didn't. And I
yeah,
put this message out to the young people out there that if they feel like they have to give up, and I say this because in New Zealand, and I'm sure lots of parts of the world, we have this crazy epidemic of youth suicide. And it's just a great reminder as you share this that, life is going to get challenging, but giving up is not the way to go. And what the story you shared,
Yeah.
you can be the worst of the worst, but when you give up, you are
Yeah.
not giving yourself the chance of actually living the life that you can lead. So I really love
I
the full
mean,
circle. Yeah,
I would definitely get everybody to, I would recommend anybody to click and watch that episode because it really is. I mean, I thought I knew everything about him. And then, he came out with all of these other stories and his other things that he'd done. And it was just, I was like, oh my God, I actually have found this as a very, because when we also think that we've done our research, we know somebody and we know what they'll say. But when somebody has that 1 hour intimate conversation, it's just one on one. And and with me, I'm like totally focused. I'm totally like I literally have switched off from the world and it's just me and that person when it comes to podcasting. And I think that's what that connection for an hour or 2 hours, and you just realize that actually I didn't know this person at all, and this
yeah,
person is remarkable. And so it changed my perception. And I don't really do put judgment on anyone, but I actually thought I knew everything about him because I studied with him. We're on the same training course, and I've just found a whole other story to him, and I was like, wow, you're amazing. So and
yeah.
I found that to be one of the stories that I wasn't expecting from him. Yeah, remarkable young man. Yeah,
And it's also a reminder for us, Miriam and myself, and for everyone out there, that everyone has another story that you don't know about, right?
yeah,
In my in
yes,
my in my coaching, I teach about the concept of the Johari window, and the Johari. We all have Johari windows in our lives, and we only choose to share. There's the open window, the hidden, the blind, and the unknown. And out of our
yeah,
lives, we think we know somebody, but there's the blind and the hidden. Same thing as we think we know
yeah,
ourselves. And
yes, yes, yeah.
the more you take time to have the conversation with somebody, just give them time. People like to talk about themselves if you give them opportunities and the safe opportunity,
Yeah.
which is why
Absolutely. And I also feel that once you've done that work yourself, I feel like sometimes when you've gone through your challenges and you've gone through your own difficulties, your heart just expands more, and you kind of recognize it in others. So I think that empathy kind of grows, your intuition grows. And we have, as women, we're quite intuitive, but I'm a very intuitive person. I think it's one of my qualities that I would sense something beforehand. And so then asking those questions and having starting that dialogue, and having those conversations, and sometimes difficult conversations. But I was always the person at university where somebody would call when they had a problem. And even now, if anything happens, I would be that first person. Oh, could we got a moment? And for me, it's to leave every single person in a better place, a more
yeah,
loving state, to really see their heart, to really understand and know that there's somebody else that they could call upon if they needed to, and just giving them, because everybody wants to be seen, everybody wants to be recognized. And so I think that's what half the battle is, that we want someone to say, did you see us? Did you see our heart? And for us to acknowledge that, we don't have the time because we're too busy doing everything else.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which, and I'm just going to sit in. I have to pause there because I think this is where the power of a podcast is, because whoever the guest is, and I shared this with you at the start. We don't really care who comes to our podcast. Or we do care. We don't really care.
Yeah.
When I say we don't care, because everybody has a story to share, and when you give someone a platform, whether it's 1 hour or two, whatever time, for that time, as you said really beautifully, that you're just zoned in and focused in that person. A bit like today,
Mm.
I'm just zoned in on you,
Yeah.
and you're telling your story, and you would do that with your guests. It's And then you walk away. Your guest walks away, going, "Hey, whatever happens in the world, for that 1 hour,
Yeah.
2 hours, my story was out there. Somebody was listening to me."
Yeah. And somebody will. And I had somebody from I do lots of do lots of women's clubs and societies. And I'm going to tell you something, that a girl came to me and said, I had breast cancer. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, but you didn't tell me. You should have shared that with you. I could have supported you. And she said, I watched your podcast that you did with a lady who had run her own organization helping other women with breast cancer. And she said, I saw that podcast of yours. And I was like, and I just kind of felt better, and I know what to do. And I just felt like I could understand the doctors more and the system more. And I was like, oh my God. And you just don't realize that that one conversation could be life-changing for someone. And so it's a form of charity. We call it seva, right? Like,
Hmm.
but in
Yeah.
you call it seva, we call it sadqa jariyah, because that's what my friend said. It's a form of charity that you're giving, and the more you give, the more you get back. And that's what I believe. The more you give, the it'll come back 10 times. It's just karma. It's that energy again,
It's energy.
rotating and coming back to you. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, like you said before, I have this conversation with people that I coach, and people have this limiting belief, again, of quotation mark. I use quotation marks, um, because
Yeah.
people are worried about, what if nobody listens to my podcast or my social media posts or whatever. I'm like, you just need one person. You don't need 1,000. You just
Yeah.
need one. And if one person's life is changed,
Yeah.
what more do you need?
Yeah. I'll tell you the story about Paul Brunson, and he is a very famous. Do you know him? He's a very
Yes,
famous
yes.
podcaster, and he actually had this idea to do this program about dating and relationships. And so he started his YouTube channel, and he said every week I would, churn out a video, and I would talk, and I would, have 9 viewers, on my podcast and my on my YouTube channel. And he said, like, probably half of them were all my mom watching me again and again on repeat. And he said, like, but I would do it. I would put out the content and I would make these videos. And one day, I got contacted by Oprah's assistant who was somebody on her team that watched my video and suggested me to Oprah. Then he said it just took one person. Then fast forward, he has some uh, uh, program some that he does and he did. He got contract to do with Oprah's media house. So you just never know who is watching, who will see your video and be inspired, and the message will resonate with them, and they'll just want to. I think people don't express their heart, and I think people start to perform or think that we should talk in a certain way and we should behave in a certain way, but we're all unique and we're all designed very differently. And like I said, we all are on our own purpose and our own mission in life. We're not meant to please everybody else, and we're meant to help everybody else in the best capable way that we can. But we are all designed differently. We're humans. Our DNA is completely different. We're assigned and come down on this earth for a mission, and you just have to find out what that purpose is. So here we think that we could have 9 views, and what are we going to do? No one's watching, but you just never know. You never know where this message will go out and who it goes to.
Yeah, exactly. And I am a firmly. People ask me about what my why is, and my
Yeah,
why is to create a ripple effect. And a ripple effect only starts with one stone, like one stone, and the
yeah,
ripple effect is really, really beautiful. And what
yes,
you just
yes,
shared right now there, whether it's one viewer or 10,000 viewers, the one person's life change. That's all you need to do, right? And
yeah,
I'm gonna circle this right back to you, because I think this is what you do really well. I mean, ever since I connected with you, which is what, 5 years ago. I mean, it was a long time ago. I can't remember when it was. It's the ripple effect that you've had in the world with your energy that you bring in. So I want to acknowledge you for that. And thank you for that there, because for our list guests out there, Miriam also has not shared. She has had lots of challenges with health and things like that there. Um, but through all that, there's always been the inspiration to move forward and look at what's tomorrow like. What's tomorrow like? And I think if we think about that, go right, cool. Today is the challenge, but tomorrow is another day.
yeah.
So I want
I
to
always
acknowledge you
think
for that.
focus on the best then, Prajesh. Like we all have everything. And I said to my
Yeah,
friends when they see me on social media, that you look wonderful. There's nothing wrong with you. And then when they ask me or they see me or they come to visit, like, oh, we didn't know what's going on. I was like,
yeah,
yeah, I just been to hospital with my mum every Friday. I had this going on. I had this. Da, 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 da. But I said, I can't show that on social media because we all have our own things. At the end of the day, I'm here to like spread a message. I'm here to talk about certain things. If we all talked about all of our problems and all our negativity came out online, oh my God, what a horrible place that would be. Because I'm here to inspire and to help people, not to, indulge everybody. We all have problems. We all have them. But it is how much energy you give to it. And I think when you start giving more energy to a problem or difficulty, it will just magnify. And why not magnify the good? Why
Yeah.
not magnify positivity? So I always think the same. Like if somebody says something, I'll go, "Well, all right, you have 2 minutes to tell me, and then that's it. We don't talk about it." Because some people like to ponder and like just sit in their problems and never
Yeah.
leave. And then, they'll turn into like what's that? Bridget Jones? No, it's Bridget, like they'll go into their own sorrow. They'll
Yeah.
just swim in
Like,
their own sorrow. And I'm like, oh,
yeah.
go get out of there. That's
Yeah.
just what are you doing? You know?
Yeah.
So I think that, one people like to do that again. And so I think if you just change that mindset and get them back on track as soon as possible, I think those people who stay down, you can stay down for a couple of minutes, stay down for a couple of hours, maybe a maximum a day, but come back up again.
Yeah.
That's
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 right.
the challenge, isn't it? You got to come back up again as soon as possible. And those people around you will
We'll,
they'll
we'll
lift
lift you.
you up.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
you need good people around you. Environment is probably one of the most important things that you can do in your life, in your career.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mary, we've been speaking for almost an hour, and I know
Oh,
it's
wow.
late for you there. And our time,
Sounds
and
like
your time will just fly by.
yeah,
And we could keep talking for 5 or 6 hours. I know that
absolutely.
for sure. But but in the interest of time, and you've been amazing. Um, I'd like to end the podcast with a question we ask every single one of our guests.
All right.
Um,
Okay.
it's our podcast called Baskets of Knowledge, and you've shared lots of knowledge today. But we invite all our guests to share one piece of knowledge that we can put into our basket to take forward in our lives for our guests. And this could come from any part of your life. Yeah, what is this piece of knowledge you'd like to put into our basket?
I would definitely say that to have self-belief. And I think that that's one of the most important things that you should have in life is to believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. So you have start with good people. And I was fortunate to have that from my father and my auntie who, like I told you, who filled me up with so much self-belief that I was forced to believe in myself. And you need someone, if not then yourself, to believe in you so much that you deny everything else. And that is the core character that you need, the core ingredient in life. You have to have self-belief. You know that you can do it. You know that you want to do it, and nothing will stop you. So for me, I would say that if you do anything, do make sure that you work on your self-belief, work on improving yourself, being loving, fill your own self up, do good things for yourself, don't neglect yourself. As an Asian, South Asian, Pakistani woman, we always, in our culture, we put everybody first. You go first, you do. And I always thought I was a very kind person, but this have boundaries, because when I had my counseling session after my divorce, someone said, one of my therapists said, "Oh, boundaries." I was like, boundaries? What do you mean boundaries? We don't have boundaries as Asian women. And I guess for me to learn that sometimes we have to unlearn things and relearn. And so, I want you to, anybody that is listening, is to really put yourself first and fill yourself up with love, self-care. And because when you feel good about yourself, then you can help others. There's no point of helping everyone else and not helping the most important person. So fill yourself up with that self-belief that you can do it. Nothing is impossible. And really be like so loving towards yourself. I always buy myself a little gift at the end of the month and treat myself, treat yourself good. And so you'll be able to do that for others. It all starts from that. All starts for your own self. I feel that those who are running on empty and helping everybody else are just completely, I think they're quite hypocritical, actually. I think you have to start with yourself.
What
It
a
all starts with yourself. Yeah.
100%. What a beautiful piece of nourishment to a basket. I love the saying that if you don't believe in yourself, why would someone else believe in you?
They won't. No,
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
to
they
have
won't.
conviction in your words,
Yes.
in your actions. Just totally have that self-belief, because confidence goes a long way.
Yeah.
People can people can see the weakness, we can feel it. So start to cultivate that self-confidence confidence will get you everywhere.
Boom. How good is that? How good is that? I love it. I love that so much. What a mic drop moment that is. Miriam, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Is there any last words you'd like to share before we close up? It's been a real honor having you on.
Just have a wonderful year ahead. Set your goals, go for your dreams, and have kind conversations. Be loving, and enjoy your life. Have no regrets.
What a great way to close the podcast. Miriam, it's been a real absolute pleasure, honor, and privilege having you on. You've shared some amazing nuggets of wisdom today. And for our listeners out there, hopefully you've had a good listen. You found something to take away. And if you haven't, it's because you've fallen asleep. So go back and listen again, because I'm sure you will not regret it. Until next time, don't forget to find a reason to smile every day. Don't forget to put something into your basket of knowledge. And as Miriam has said, don't forget to start believing in yourself, because when you do that, your whole life will change. Till next time, bye Maryum. Thank you everybody. Kakite. Bye everybody. Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge. Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks everybody. Bye.